Welcome to another episode of the Idaho House Republicans podcast, where you get to learn a little bit more about the legislators that you have sent to the State House. And today we have the privilege of speaking with Representative Rick Cheatum, who represents Legislative District 28 in Seat A, and he's in his second term. Good morning to you, and welcome to the Idaho House Republicans podcast, Rick Cheatum.
Thank you, Vic. I appreciate it very much.
Hey, let's tell you a little bit about Rick. His background: he was raised in Kansas, and he went to UK actually for his undergrad. He's raised on a farm, and he moved here to Idaho in 1977 to be part of a broadcast opportunity here in Pocatello, and he's got a BS in broadcast journalism. He's been employed in radio and auto sales and credit unions. He's been on the Pocatello City Council from 2017 to 2025. He's a regional director of he was a regional director of the Association of Idaho Cities. He's been involved in the Idaho Fish and Game in all sorts of ways. But most importantly, he's married to the wonderful Debbie. Is it 34 years, Deborah? Deborah, okay. 34 years, and you have a daughter.
Yes.
And a stepson.
Yes.
And you've got a joy in your life because of your family. So that's the most important thing.
And a dog.
And what's his name?
Trampus.
Trampus.
Remember that television show?
I don't.
The Virginian that had Trampus?
No.
That's where the name came from.
I don't know that one. But we should tell everyone that you can tell it's a Wednesday. And how can we tell it's Wednesday, Representative Cheatum?
Ta-da!
And what's
Bingo
the ta-da
Wednesday
part?
When Cheatum wears orange all over the Capitol. You know, this is kind of a tradition that started, I'm guessing, about 20 years ago in Pocatello. Okay. There was a group that was trying to move the community involvement in the university to the next level, to become a university town instead of just a town with the university. And they started some cooperative efforts between the university and the city. And those involved calling every Wednesday Bingo Wednesday.
Okay.
And everybody wears orange apparel, orange and black, wears buttons, caps, whatever it may be.
Ties, shoes. You haven't even have shoes on.
Can't get my feet up that
Bengal
high.
Shoes.
But yeah, and it's become quite an effort to elevate the university throughout the community. In the fall, when the students first come back to Pocatello to the university, we invite them all downtown. And they come down on buses and they unload, and they see all kinds of vendors, and we throw a street dance and do all kinds of things for those people. And then up until COVID, there was a time that when it all came along, when the community would go to the university. They would go to the various departments and buildings, especially the student union, and have events to get people more familiar with what the university was all about. I thought, as long as I'm coming down here, I don't normally dress in all the attire when I'm home, but I usually wear something orange or has ISU logos or tigers, whatever it might be. So I thought, every Wednesday when I'm up here,
why not?
I'm putting on the whole costume.
Amen, brother. So let's talk about why, even though you're a UK guy, you're wearing the Bengal orange because your legislative district, which is Legislative District 28, happens to have that wonderful university there. But tell us a little bit about Legislative District 28, what it's like, and what your constituents care about there.
Well, 28, I know this is hard to believe, 28 is the donut around Pocatello.
Okay.
It encompasses Power County, which is American Falls. It encompasses Franklin County, which is along the Utah border and has Franklin and Preston in it. And then it comes up and it kind of circles around Pocatello and encompasses Chubbuck, but not most of Pocatello. Each district after the redistricting happened in 2020 has about 52,500 people in it.
Right.
So when you take, and there was, I'm sure you remember when all that happened, how hard it was for the redistricting committee to figure out how to put contiguous counties and precincts together to make that composition. It was a struggle. In fact, my district actually cuts through a vacant lot when it goes down one street, and they ended up carving Bannock County up into 3 different districts, 28, 29, and 35.
Oh, wow.
And when that happened, it left both the incumbent representatives outside of the district they had traditionally been in, which was 28 at that time. So it left an opening. And I was serving on the city council. I'd just been elected in November before the election in the spring, when I was elected the first time to this position. And I looked at that and thought, I've served on the city council, and I was also serving on the Association of Idaho Cities Board of Directors.
Right.
And it seemed like every time we had a problem that came up with some sort of legislation that affected cities, we weren't getting the votes that we needed. And I thought, I know a little bit about cities now. I've been doing that for 4 years. So I decided to run for the office. Did some investigating, discovered that, yes, you can hold 2 positions in this state, as long as those 2 positions don't occur on the same ballot. City elections are held on odd years, and state elections are held on even years. So you're on different ballots. So it is legal. So
there you go.
For 4 years, I served in both seats, going to city council meetings and city council study sessions remotely. The one good thing that happened during COVID is this world learned to deal remotely, and it worked really well. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the TV show The Big Bang Theory, but there's an episode where Sheldon has a television screen, and he's laying in bed and he's trying to operate remotely with a robot and a television screen. That's what you saw when you looked while I was on the city council the last 4 years. On my position on the dais was a 22-inch television, and it was a monitor, and it was showing my face remotely on the dais in Pocatello. A speaker was there so I could make motions, second,
that's
vote,
funny.
Do all those things from Pocatello. But it meant some long days down here.
Right.
City council meetings in Pocatello were held on Thursday nights, and the work sessions are held on Thursday mornings. So I would come in and do a Chamber of Commerce call at 7 o'clock in the morning here, have to hit the building about 6:30, then have a council meeting that started at 6 remotely and usually ran 45 minutes to an hour. So it made for a very long day. But it was a unique opportunity to use the experience of being on council and actually talk down here to people who don't know how cities really work.
Right.
And it was very rewarding.
Yeah, Representative Bruce, of course, is on the city council in Cuna. He's the president of the council. So there are some voices from the city. And actually, Star Mayor Trevor Chadwick was sitting in a couple of days for Bruce Skog this week. So you had 3 city people in there.
Well, and Jeff Cornelis has been on the city council. He serves on the Urban Renewal District. Kyle Harris serves on the city council. So there is some experience. And, one thing we have down here are a lot of former county commissioners.
Right.
Surprising number.
Right.
They wield a lot of power in the legislature because they've been involved in the political process when they were, which council and mayoral people really aren't. We don't have D's and R's and I's and C's after our names on the ballots, and they do. So they've worked with local county committees. They've worked, through the legislative process for a long time, and their words of wisdom are highly respected down here. And we have a lot of them that we can fall back on when county-wide issues come up.
Let's talk a little bit about so what committees do you serve on, so everyone knows?
I serve on local government, which was relevant because of my city council experience. I also, this year, for the first time, serve on business. I had been on commerce and HR, and asked this year to be moved to business when an opening came up there because of some changes in membership of the House. And I also serve on revenue and taxation.
Perfect. So let's talk about some legislation. And as the old adage goes, you don't win them all, right? But with your city experience, you made arguments on House Bill 725 today, a bill that you brought with also Furness, Representative Furness, and Representative Garner, that cities can enter the state employees' health plan. So what was the issue that you had seen, and why did you bring the bill, even though it did not go your way on the floor? What made you want to bring that bill?
Okay, let's rub the scab off this wound. 3 years ago, in dealing with budgeting through the city council in Pocatello, it became obvious that because we were a relatively small group, We've got about 600 employees seasonally. Maybe it bumps to 650, but there's about 400 that are full-time employees. And when you have that big group, you need health insurance. That's just kind of an expectation we have in today's world. So the thought was given that maybe we could get into the health insurance pool through the state plan. There is a strange definition in that particular piece of code that allows political subdivisions to join, but it turns out that definition says cities are not political subdivisions. They're municipal corporations and therefore excluded. So in order to bring them other groups in outside of direct state employees, it takes legislation. This happened about, I think it was 6 years ago. School districts were looking for a way to help stabilize their health insurance costs. So a bill was brought forward. In fact, Rod Furness brought it, and that allowed the schools to join the state insurance pool. Right now, there are about 27,000 employees in that state insurance pool, and about 65,000, if you will, belly buttons insured, dependents and so forth. Mm-hmm. So what we were trying to do was find a way to bring cities on. When the schools came on, because they are state-funded entity, the state allocated funds to each school district to allow them to join. It takes a buy-in in order to mitigate the risk, and then it takes the money to pay the annual premium for each employee that you're going to cover.
Okay.
The state provided that for schools. They don't provide that for cities. So the plan that we had that failed on the House floor today would be cities would be responsible for that buy-in, and they would be responsible for the annual premium. And if there were any administrative cost changes because of the additions to the pool, they would have to cover those.
And was that basically because you wanted to have the stability in the source of that, and perhaps maybe even lower the cost because you're in a larger pool? Is that what you were trying to do for the cities?
That's exactly right. We were trying to, one of the basic tenets of insurance is the larger that, if you've got 10 people and one of them has an illness and they're all sharing the cost, that becomes expensive. If you've got 10,000, that one person doesn't affect the overall rates. The overall risk to all those people. Well, in this case, we've got 65,000. When I looked at the numbers, a school district, well, for instance, use my school district, Pocatello, District 25. There's about 1,200 employees. The city has about 400. So if that number holds true as a ratio, the schools brought about 17,000 people on board. That would mean that there would be somewhere around between 5,000 and 6,000, perhaps, if every city that has a school in it that's in the pool joined. And frankly,
and that's an opt-in, right? It's not required.
Strictly, no, not required in any way. Strictly an option for determining what's the best thing for taxpayers. Because property taxes support cities, and that's general fund money on a city level. So that was our idea: is how can we bring them into the pool, lower the cost of health insurance, help control that one component of building a city budget that is property tax fed.
Right.
And it didn't work.
Sometimes we've interviewed probably 40 people on this podcast, and sometimes bills just take multiple years and multiple attempts, so it's not like the idea is dead.
Third year.
Oh, third?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
First year, it's actually gotten all the way to the floor.
Okay.
But this is the third year that we've tried to do this, and there's great opposition from those who simply refuse to understand that the cities pay the bill. We're not asking the state for anything except increasing the risk pool that city health insurance is drawn for. The cities would pay the premium, they'd pay the buy-in, they'd pay the administrative costs. The director of the Office of Government Insurance and the Department of Administration said that on the average, they figure it takes about 2 full-time employees for every 17,000 people that are enrolled in the plan. If we got to 17,000, we'd have to pick up about $175,000 in extra personnel costs. But I frankly don't think there'll ever be that many cities join the plan. When the schools joined, there were 38. Out of all the hundreds of school districts across the state, there were only 38 that joined. One dropped out after the first year, decided they wanted to go a different direction. That left 37. And I think if we had a dozen schools, or a dozen cities rather, join this plan, I think that would be a lot. I doubt.
And there's over 200 cities.
There's 197.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of them are very tiny. Some of them don't have any health insurance plan because the only employee is a city clerk.
Right.
And that city clerk may be running on a spouse's health insurance plan. They have nothing.
Right.
Or they might have a kid mowing lawns, in city parks is the second employee.
Right.
But some cities are big. Some cities have self-insurance. Started doing that a long time ago. Some cities are with other health insurance companies and might find that the plan that they have is better. And some might find when the renewal time comes up, if this city option is available, maybe it'll make insurance companies sharpen the pencil a little bit and remain more competitive. That was part of the concept we were looking at.
Let's talk about House Bill 643. It's a bill you're bringing on building codes. And it deals with new construction of fourplex dwellings. Talk about what problem you saw and what you're trying to solve in House Bill 643.
Well, that one originated a couple of years ago in an attempt to lower housing costs. I think we all recognize there's a housing shortage across Idaho, and we all recognize how incredibly expensive housing has become in some areas. I talked to a guy the other day who was talking about a location in the Treasure Valley and that they were getting $400,000 per quarter-acre lot for dirt to build a house on.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Wow. Wish I had a few acres of that dirt. But the concept here was if right now Idaho code requires on fourplexes or more occupancy and multi-occupancy dwellings requires a fire suppression sprinkler system. The cost on that runs, depending on where you're building and exactly what you do, between $40,000 and $50,000 per unit. So that's, on a fourplex, that's somewhere between $160,000 and $200,000. If we can cut that cost and not raise the risk to tenants of a fire, we've cut costs and we speeded it up. I have a contractor who sent me some bids and we've talked, and he said that he can buy all the materials to build a fourplex, all the stuff he needs to put it together for about $50,000. And it costs another $46,000 for him to put the fire suppression system in. And because of the need for electrical and plumbing and all the things it takes to do that system, it extends the build on that fourplex about 6 weeks because you have to go back and get all the inspections as the project proceeds. So the concept here was twofold: one, to lower the cost, and one, to speed up housing.
But there's also, in terms of the safety element, you did have a heat detection element in the bill. Tell people what that means, so to protect the tenants, obviously, if something unfortunately happens.
What they've discovered nationwide is as we move to more and more rechargeable batteries, scooters, lawn implements, tools, those things, lithium-ion batteries, we have an increase of fires from those things. So those lithium-ion batteries short and start a fire. And apparently a lot of these fires are occurring in garages. And the tenants don't know there's a fire there until they open a door to walk in the garage, or smoke starts, getting into the house. So what we had proposed was, in addition to dropping the water sprinkler system, because water will not put out a lithium-ion fire.
No.
And what we wanted to do was put not a smoke system or fire system, but a heat detection system, so that heat source could be detected in a garage. So if you've got a car running, the exhaust might set off a smoke system, but it wouldn't necessarily set off a heat detection system. It's a $50 addition to most homes, but just require that in garages for the safety. And the bill also required a 2-hour firewall in those units so that tenants have a chance to get out and stop a fire where they're at. I talked to several owners of fourplex complexes, and they've had a problem with those pressurized sprinkler systems leaking or being inadvertently set off and causing tremendous damage, water damage to walls and floors and ceilings and carpets and appliances. And that has been a problem, more of a problem for many of them than ever having a fire. So we're just trying to figure out a better way to move our fire code into the 21st century.
And where's this bill? Where is this now, this bill?
Well, this bill is dead.
Okay.
There was some politics involved, and I had to agree.
Politics here at the State House?
Yeah.
I mean, it's what it is. It's politics.
Sometimes it crops up its ugly head, and it did here. I had to agree to drop that bill at least for this year in order to move the insurance bill forward.
Okay.
So, and I know there are a lot of contractors out there who are really looking forward to this, and developers who wanted that bill to happen. I had to make a choice.
Yeah, I understand.
Which one is more important?
And Representative Redmond, of course, has been running a lot of bills similar to this to try to reduce the costs of construction and ultimately what it would cost for someone to get into these. So appreciate the effort.
Thank you. Representative Redmond was on that interim committee investigating housing costs and what can be done.
Exactly.
You know, the numbers say that for every $1,000 we increase the cost of a home, we price 1,000 Idahoans out.
So let's talk about, and then we're going to wrap up, but let's talk about rats and mosquitoes, shall we?
Abatement districts. Oh, yeah.
So House Bill 747 is you can opt out from a mosquito district, and then Senate Bill 1271 AA, which means it's had 2 amendments, invasive Norway rats. Tell us about those bills, you dirty rat.
Yeah. Apparently there's been a rat invasion in the Treasure Valley over, I guess, in the Caldwell Star, somewhere in that area. They think they've been brought in shipping containers from people moving to here from the coast. And there's a problem with a couple of species. They're calling them Norway rats and roof rats.
Yes, roof rats too.
And they've moved in, and they are advancing and apparently become a problem. So those bills were introduced, and how we handle that. Is that a state problem or is that a local problem?
Or a city problem, right?
Yeah.
County problem, but not a state problem.
Yeah, and
that's the point.
The authority for abatement districts to attack those is very defined. There are species that are allowed to abate, but you're not allowed to just abate because you want to if you're a member of an abatement district. And this rat bill would have given that authority for those abatement districts to go after rats, undoubtedly at some cost. And they have the ability, they are a local taxing jurisdiction.
Okay.
And it's something we certainly don't want to get out. You know, it's a problem, especially in agricultural areas where you're storing grain or storing equipment and so forth. Those things can cause a lot of damage. And Norway rats are pretty good size, from what I understand, a couple of pounds.
That's probably why they're called Norway.
Maybe.
If they were really big, it would be a bigger country.
Yeah.
the Canada rat, whatever. So where is that bill now? Is the debate really whether it's a state issue or a local issue? Is that really what that bill will come down to in your mind?
Trying to remember. Nick, I don't remember for sure. I was thinking that the rat bill passed and the mosquito bill failed, but I would have to go back and check the exact numbers to make sure.
So what was the idea on the House Bill 747 relative to the mosquito district abatement?
Well, those that testified said that there was a district, and it was one mosquito district, that was not following the statute. The statute says if you're going to treat an area, primarily standing water, in order to kill either larvae or adult insects, you're supposed to get homeowner or landowner permission to trespass. And apparently there were people who felt like that wasn't being done and that they were being adversely affected by the chemicals that were being used to treat those things. It was hard to understand how it was a state issue when basically it was only one district out of the 22 across the entire state that was being complained about. I live in a mosquito abatement district in eastern Idaho. I live a long way from any standing water, and I never see a mosquito. Very, very rarely.
Right.
But in our area of the state, Bannock County adjoins Bingham County, and Bingham County has a lot of standing water, and they have a problem with mosquitoes who carry equine encephalitis and other diseases that can kill. One of the members of the committee, when this first came up, told us that several years ago, both his father and mother were killed by diseases borne by mosquitoes.
Okay.
And across the state, there are 1 or 2 deaths of humans a year and a number of deaths of horses who are bit by mosquitoes who are carrying these various diseases.
So the abatement districts are important, but they have to do things by the book. And that was really what this bill was trying to remind everybody, like, don't drive up someone's driveway and start spraying their house. And it would be nice if we know what chemicals are being sprayed too. So that was kind of the crux of the bill, if I remember.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There was concern about human danger from the chemicals being used.
Right.
Whether it was real or not, I'm not sure.
Right.
I used to live, before I moved to Idaho, I lived in Hutchinson, Kansas, and that's a very low, flat community near a river that floods every year, and they had a tremendous mosquito problem. But late at night, if you heard a roaring noise going down your street and you went out, there was a pickup truck pulling a trailer with a mosquito fogger on it.
Right.
And you knew in advance that they were coming.
Right.
And you just closed up your doors and windows and you waited until the mist settled.
Right.
And the mosquitoes were gone.
Gone.
And
that's
primarily in those days, they were treating adult mosquitoes instead of larvae. But the larva techniques, from what I understand, are really innocuous to humans. The adult, maybe not so much.
Right, that's the spraying part. So from Kansas to Idaho, from broadcasting to city council to the legislature, from rats to city insurance to, it just shows you like life has a crazy way of working through things. So, but we're glad that you joined us. We've been spending some time here on the Idaho House Republicans podcast with Representative Rick Cheatum, represents Legislative District 28A. And as we always say before we sign off, God bless the great state of Idaho. And again, thank you, Representative Rick Cheatum, for joining us on Idaho House Republicans podcast.
Thank you.
Sunrise on the Snake River plain, red, white, and blue in the window pane. Work boots dusty from yesterday, but we're back at it the Idaho way.